I have to be honest that writing my sermons this year had been excruciating. Not because I don't have anything to say, but because I have too much to say. I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about Israel, or anti-Semitism, or climate change, or gun violence, or reproductive freedom, or maybe AI, or possibly how all of this coalesces into a single anxiety-inducing topic: the upcoming election. In a recent conversation with one of our members, she looked at me earnestly and she said, "We need our clergy in this moment. We're looking to you for answers." No rabbi, including myself, has a direct line to God. I don't have any answers that you don't also have, but what I do have is a command over our Jewish tradition and a mental reservoir of stories. When the world is on fire, which it definitely feels like it's on fire, I feel less isolated by looking to our Jewish ancestors. Their wisdom and their mistakes prove that we today, we do not exist in a vacuum. Rather, we stand firmly on a foundation of our historical narrative. We have been here before. We have survived, and we have even found new ways to thrive. Tonight, I share with you 3 stories for this moment. They teach us that we, 1, may not always have answers, but 2, we do always have agency. And 3, being Jewish means using our agency to rebuild after destruction. That is what we do. That is our Jewish superpower. We begin with a story about Moses. By Exodus 11, God has sent 9 plagues down to Egypt, and Moses is preparing the Israelites to endure the 10th and final plague. He says to them in Exodus 11, "Thus says God, Kachatzot halayla, at around midnight, I will go forth from among the Egyptians, and every firstborn male Egyptian shall die." Can you imagine Moses' terror in this moment? How many of you were following the news in Florida this week, watching in horror as people, Americans just like you and me, were escaping desperately from Hurricane Milton's path? The 10th plague and its aftermath were like this. The Israelites had to make their hasty escape, and they couldn't bring anything with them except for unleavened bread, their most precious gold and silver, and maybe some timbrels to dance with once they had crossed the Red Sea. And Moses, as their leader in this story, must be feeling the pressure for every decision that he makes to be the right decision. The ancient rabbis get the psychology of this moment. They ask, I don't get it. Moses has spoken directly to God. He must know that the 10th plague is going to occur precisely at midnight. Why does he phrase it as Kachatzot halayla, at around midnight? The rabbis answer, Moses spoke in accordance with a principle that had been articulated by God. Accustom your tongue to saying, I don't know. Moses feels the pressure of leading his people well, and he admits that even though the plan for the 10th plague has been divinely directed. He is following God's exact directions. He himself is not God, and he can't control the outcome of the situation. With a simple qualifier, ka chatzot halayla, he admits that he is starting from the very human place of not knowing. What if all of us were to use this story to allow ourselves to just be in that place, to admit that we don't know and we have no idea what's coming? Think back to last year's high holiday season. Our theme for the year was kindness. And us rabbis talked about what I would call pleasant themes, joy, and the difference between being nice and being kind. We were coming off of the summer of Taylor Swift and Barbenheimer. The COVID pandemic felt really far in the past, and the 2024 election felt really far in the future. I was so excited for a bright year ahead. We were all unknowingly sailing right into October 7th. We're all Moses. We never know what's coming. We don't have all the answers, and we can't control what happens. So the question becomes, how do we respond? Our second story offers some guidance. In Genesis 12, God tells Abraham to lech lecha, to go forth from your native land, leave your father's house to the land that I, God, will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. This is the beginning of the covenant between God and the Jewish people. The rabbis of the Talmud, they want to know more about why Abraham specifically was chosen to enter this covenant. They compare him to a person walking along a very busy road. There's hustle and bustle, and everyone's doing their errands and talking to each other. It's a very busy scene. But there's one person who, among this hustle and bustle, looks out into the distance and sees a palace. But this palace is in flames. It's burning up. And this person looks out and says, hello, is anyone seeing what I'm seeing? There's this beautiful palace. Where is the owner of this palace? It's gonna burn up. And it turns out that the owner of this palace is actually inside of the palace and calls back out toward this person on the road and says, I'm here. I'm the owner of this palace. I need some help. Can we put out the fire together? Abraham is like the person walking alongside this road. Abraham looks at the world around him and sees that it's on fire, just like this palace. Abraham is confused because he sees the beauty of the world, and he also wonders how there could be such ugliness. I think many of us live like Abraham. When I wake up in the morning, I'm grateful that I exist in a world with love and art and pets and delicious food and captivating nature, a body that miraculously works, that I was born in almost the 21st century where I have technology and healthcare and freedom. Yet I turn on the news and I see death. New death in Israel and new death in Gaza. I see war, continued war that doesn't seem to end. I see disease and destruction and cruelty spewing from the mouths of our leaders. It doesn't make sense. How can it all exist at once? Abraham is like this, and he's special because he's the only person who notices this contradiction, and he decides he has to do something about it. He can't just watch the world burn up around him, so he calls out to God. And with this, God knows that Abraham is exceptional, and so God calls back out to Abraham. Let's be partners in this covenant. Let's be partners in making the world a better place. As Jews, we are inheritors of Abraham's astuteness and Abraham's courage, and our job is to be partners in putting out the world's flames too. When I feel like Moses in our first story, completely void of answers, I try to gain the courage so that I can act more like Abraham in our second story. I might not be able to save the palace all on my own, and I might grab a bucket of water when what I really need is a fire extinguisher, but if we all work together, perhaps we can save the palace. Perhaps we can save the world. What does this look like? For me, this means modeling my values and empowering others to do the same. I value compassion, and I value honesty, and I value respect for all human life. In practice, this means that I strive to really listen to people, not just the words or the sounds that are coming out of their mouths, but what they're actually trying to say. Because when people feel truly heard, I believe that they then treat others with that same respect. When I feel so much anxiety about the looming election that I feel like I can't breathe, I get out there and I write a few postcards. This coming Monday, I'll be traveling with Jewish synagogues across Los Angeles for a Vegas voyage for reproductive rights. Together, we'll knock on Las Vegas doors and use Jewish texts and Jewish values to encourage fellow citizens to think deeply about how they are voting on reproductive freedom come November. I'm grateful that my role as a rabbi allows me not only to model my values personally, but it provides a platform for me to share these values and empower others too. As an educator here, for instance, I implement curricula that trains our learners to be compassionate warriors. Our 7th graders learn about the history of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust, and then they create their mitzvah projects that make a difference in people's lives. This year, our high schoolers are learning about the link between civil rights and the American Jewish history. Next month, they'll travel to Alabama, where they will immerse in pivotal sites and history echoing the resilience of American Jewish leaders who challenge systematic oppression in our country. Putting out the flames, it doesn't even have to look like this. This is just what I am choosing to do. What matters is that each of us use our agency to do something to partner with God. That is how we heed the call of Genesis, of Lech Lecha. Our third story for tonight, it's not about Moses, and it's not about Abraham. It's about Adam and Eve. The story goes that for some reason, God never thought to tell Adam and Eve about sunset and sunrise. So at the end of their first day, they saw that this beautiful blue sky was getting darker and darker, and they didn't know what was happening. All they could do was embrace each other and weep because they thought the world was ending. So in their embrace, somewhere in the middle of the night, they looked up and they saw that the black sky was turning purple and a little red and orange and yellow until finally it was blue again. A new day. The world wasn't ending after all. About this story, Ali Wiesel once shared, God gave Adam and Eve a secret. And that secret was not how to begin. That secret was how to begin again. We Jews, we have found ways from ancient times until now, not only to emerge from darkness, but to emerge from darkness anew. The world felt like it was ending after the first and second temples were destroyed, but that darkness gave way to rabbinic Judaism. And we never lost sight of our hope to be reunited in our holy land of Israel, and 2,000 years later, the modern state of Israel was born. The world surely felt like it was ending during the Holocaust, and in many ways it was. But on the other side of the world, what we have coined the golden age of American Judaism was just beginning. I know that it has felt like that golden age is coming to an end since October 7th, and really even before October 7th. Watching this decline, we have felt like Moses. We have felt completely without answers. I have also watched us act like Abraham. In the last year, Temple Emmanuel raised $34,000 for Israel. We sent 180 trauma kits to Israeli medical teams. We wrote letters to the IDF, and we visited Israel to make clear to Israelis that they have allies in us, American Jews. We offered classes on the history of Israel and Zionism, and we offered ways to think about the recent campus protests. We saw a surge in conversions, and in many of our conversations with conversion candidates, they explained that the attacks on October 7th only strengthened their desire to join our people. Just 4 days ago, we filled this sanctuary with tears and poetry and songs and prayers as we marked together 1 year since October 7th. And we're still here. I have full confidence that generations to come will one day look back at us, and they will see that it's not that we were like Moses, and it's not that we were even like Abraham. They will have seen that we were also like Adam and Eve. We will have found fresh opportunities to create the next chapter of our Jewish story, even when it felt like the world was ending. Perhaps this decline that we see ourselves in will give way to communally reinvesting our time and our energies and our finances into specifically Jewish causes. Maybe now we understand that we have to support ourselves first because no one else is going to do it for us. Maybe this generation of Jewish children will grow up with a newfound appreciation for the state of Israel, because maybe they finally understand how important Israel is for our safety. And in a post-COVID, more disconnected world, maybe new Jewish institutions will pop up that look different from the synagogue and federation model that's left over from 70 years ago. I don't pretend to have answers. I don't know what Judaism will look like 5, 50, or definitely 500 years from now. But what I do have is a deep pride for who we are as a Jewish people, for who we are as Am Yisrael. I know that we will survive, and maybe we'll even find new ways to thrive. We are Moses. We are Abraham. We are Adam, and we are Eve, and we are every Jew in between and since. Being Jewish means using our agency to rebuild after destruction. That is who we are. That is what we do. That is our Jewish superpower. Am Yisrael Chai.